This is Marianne Martindale from the Alliance for a Better Utah, and welcome to the Better Utah Beat. When talking about politics these days, many people find themselves disillusioned, turned off by the increasingly negative tone used by both sides of the aisle. A recent story on NPR's All Things Considered noted that in the last week of presidential ads aired in the swing state of Colorado, only 3% were positive. That's 50 ads out of a total of 1,500 that aired. You can bet Coloradoans have not been happy. But presidential elections aren't the same as local elections, and Utah, not being a swing state, doesn't have the same scrutiny that Colorado does. So how do we compare? Election ads aren't as positive as you might hope. For example, the Republican inter-party race this year between John Swallow and Sean Reyes, who were both vying to be the Republican nominee for Utah Attorney General, was anything but cordial. Although Mr. Swallow eventually won the primary contest, both his campaign and the Reyes campaign indulged in particularly biting and personal attacks on their websites, in mailers, in the media, and even in the courts. The fight got so bad that people across the state were telling the press that they weren't very likely to vote for either candidate. Here at Better Utah, we push for an open and honest debate that we feel has been lacking in Utah for many years. That's why we were so pleased when Thomas Wright, chairman of the Utah Republican Party, rebuked both Swallow and Reyes in a June 27th article in the Deseret News. In that article, Thomas Wright said, quote, "I don't think negative attacks are what voters want. It doesn't matter if it works or if it doesn't. It's the damage it does to the system." Wright went on in the piece to call on all candidates, whether Democrat, Republican, or Independent, to run clean, positive, and productive campaigns that would, quote, "make Americans proud to vote." We couldn't agree more. That's why it's been so upsetting over the past few weeks to see Chairman Wright engaging in the same negative attack ads that he condemned only a few short months ago. As Election Day looms, the Republican Party in Utah has been sending out negative mail blitzes against Democrats who they deem to be vulnerable. Carol Spackman-Moss's district in Holiday and Murray, for example, was flooded with an estimated $10,000 mailer from the Republican Party, claiming that Representative Moss is a career politician and that 12 years is too long for anyone to serve in the legislature. As the Salt Lake Tribune pointed out, there was no mention of the 8 Republican legislators who have been on Capitol Hill for much longer than Representative Moss, including House Speaker Becky Lockhart and Senate Majority Leader Scott Jenkins. The Republican attack ad also made no mention that Representative Moss was a school teacher in her district for 33 years before being elected to the legislature. She is hardly a career politician. But perhaps we shouldn't be surprised or shocked at this sudden reversal of principles the Utah GOP is showing. After all, who is Representative Moss's opponent? None other than Anne Marie Lampropoulos, Thomas Wright's own sister. And in addition to being the sister of the Republican Party chair, Ms. Lampropoulos is also the wife of billionaire Fred Lampropoulos, who famously, or infamously, spent over $2 million of his own money on his losing gubernatorial primary bid against John Huntsman in 2004. But the Republican Party may be wise to back off this new negative mailing strategy, as it has already begun to backfire. Last week, both Representative Carol Spackman-Moss and Republican challenger Anne Marie Lampropoulos spoke at the Mount Olympus Senior Center. After their presentation, Ms. Lampropoulos was almost immediately accosted by a group of angry seniors, who waved the mailer in her face and demanded to know why she was running such a negative campaign. Anne Marie tried desperately to distance herself from the piece, claiming she had no knowledge of it, and that the Republican Party must have sent it out without telling her. It's a hard story to swallow, seeing as the author of the mailer is her brother, but the reaction of the seniors is definitely indicative of the public's current low tolerance for smear pieces. As the election gets closer, we're hoping that the Utah Republican Party will go back to their chairman's sentiments in June, and that candidates across the spectrum will focus their campaigns on healthy, civil debate rather than cheap personal attacks. Until next week, this is Marianne Martindale from the Alliance for a Better Utah with this week's edition of the Better Utah Beat. Have a great week, and remember that together we can make a better Utah.